Partimento and Fernando Sor, how to harmonize a melody, especially when that melody is chromatic, and do it in 2, 3, and 4 voices. This is a challenge on guitar, and Fernando Sor's Opus 31, number 20, actually gives us a viewpoint of how we might come to some solutions. So it's a great piece, a technical and musical piece for guitar, but it also is instructive in terms of how to harmonize a melody. Okay, let's take a closer look. The tempo marking Sor put on this piece is andante allegro. Let me say that again. The tempo marking is andante allegro. And you might ask yourself, he couldn't make up his mind? Andante usually means slow, kind of a walking pace. Allegro, usually we infer it to mean fast. So, which is it? Well, this is one of those times, I think, personally, where you look at what the words mean in Italian. Allegro also means cheerful, happy. Andante just means kind of a walking pace. So, if you imagine being happy and on a walking pace, there probably would be a little bounce to your step. And this is why I think he's had all these rests. It's supposed to have this little bounce. You're just so happy. Yep, so forth. Okay, so that's just a brief explanation of what you might consider should be your tempo. Your tempo also being what kind of mood and expression you wish to bring into your interpretation of this piece. There's lots of subtleties in the way that Sor uses quarter notes and an eighth note followed by a rest. It's not all the way the same. And places where he makes those changes are really very effective and quite wonderful. The beginning part, we had a melody that sounded a little bit like this. So now let's take a look what Sor does. He gives us an A minor chord, root position, and then an E chord in first inversion. This shape, by the way, is the same as if I was to move this up a fret. It would look a little bit like this. So this shape is a first inversion F chord. Yeah, move it up, first inversion G chord. So the top note on the first string is actually the root of the chord. So we have A minor, first inversion, E chord, and A minor. A is going down a half step, and the middle voice and the top voice is not moving at all. Okay, so he's taken 3 notes, but he made sure that every one of those melody notes that repeats is got a different harmony. And the second chord is pushing to the tonic. So we have tonic, dominant, tonic. A, E, A. Okay. Then from there, he's going to spread the voices out. So which was rather closed becomes much more open. We have an A minor chord in 5th position, and that chord, he's being selective. So again, he's picked the note A, the note E, and the note C. Gives you those 3 notes together, and now he goes to D and B. And now he's going to move this D to C, this B to A, and the open D, or if you prefer to have fingered it on the 5th string, up to D sharp. So you're hearing in the first 2 bars, or first full bar, with the anacrusis, sounds something like this in the top part. The middle voice is harmonizing. First, in thirds, and then in sixths. And then in the bass line, so we have three voices moving independently. Yeah, let's try that one more time. Listen to those chords. Nice, yes? Then he drops the third voice and goes with two voices, and we have sixth. Notice the shape. And then he's going to give us a stacked chord with a G sharp in it, and that chord is a diminished chord. This shape is a diminished triad. And that D is going to go to C, this B is going to go to C, this G sharp is going to go to A. So he went from three voices to two voices, two of the voices zoned in on the note C. Now he's going to go to an A seventh chord and a D chord, and then a D sharp, and then to an E chord. So if you're listening to the voices, you're hearing on the top part, and the middle voice just stays on A, and the bottom voice is the most interesting, and they're moving in contrary motion. Let's just take a look and listen to just the outer voices. Yes? Okay. So in this first 4 bars, we have had a chromatic scale in the melody, and we've also seen chromaticism in the harmonic setting of the melody in 3 voices. In the second phrase, we heard more voices in the harmonization, and the subtlety is not only in the harmony, but it is in how Sor manipulates the voice leading. So notice in the first phrase we had root position chord, first inversion, and root position. In measure 4, we have the ending with an E chord being held for a full beat, and the bass line moves down so that when we get to the A, we're still seeing this shape, but he's added the note C, so we're now in first inversion. And now he's going to go to an E seventh chord, but this time he's going to have the B in the bass, and it's moving down, and now we've got an A minor chord in root position. If we look at the individual voices, we'll see still there, but the middle voice is now, and the top voice is staying stationary. So we have, yes? Then he abandons having the low bass note for just a second, and he gives us an E and a C, which is a 6. This could be a C chord or an A minor chord. We really don't know. We only have 2 voices. But the next time, he does what he did before. He gives us a B and a D, and he goes to the diminished, and then he goes to an E chord. But then he's going to continue doing this, and he changes the voicing. So the first time we had a kind of a 2-voice parallel 6 coming down, but this time he's going to give us a progression that does diminished, major, diminished, major, diminished, major. Notice the shape is all the same. So I've actually had a scale moving chromatically, and if you've ever wondered how you could maybe harmonize this in 3 voices, he gives you an idea. Diminished, that's a D sharp diminished, E, C sharp diminished to D, B diminished to C, and And then he fills it up with 4 voices, a 2 chord with an F in the bass, and then a cadential 6/4 chord, that's a C chord, G7, and C. Now what makes it musically a challenge is that he is also giving us these rest in between, so we have to stop the notes. So at about halfway through the piece and measure 17, we see this melody. Let's do that part again. Great mellow melody. Again, all those little rests in there between each of those 8 notes. And again, with a little bit of a bounce to our step. If we look at the first chord, he does something similar but to how he began the piece. But we have a C chord, and again, look at the shape. Okay, this shape is root position. Now, it's a major chord because we've got this major third and this minor third stacked. Okay, if this had been a minor chord, it would have looked like this. Kind of like when we started the piece, we had an A minor chord that was just like that shape, yeah? But now C major, which is the relative major of A minor, so that's not a big surprise. But what he does to it, let's look at the chord more carefully. The C goes down to B flat and then to A. The E goes down to D to C sharp. So we've got parallel thirds. Yeah. While the top part is going up chromatically. The first part on the bottom part went down a whole step first and then a half step. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, this shape, if we look at this shape over here, if we move it down, we look and say, wow, that looks like an A7th chord. I've got an A, a C sharp, and a G. Just looks like an A7th chord to me. That's nothing special. But this is where the way you spell a chord can tell you a whole different meaning. If we move this up a fret and we look at the way that Sor has spelt this, we got B flat, D, and G sharp. So the G sharp is raised, the B flat is lowered. Okay, that probably doesn't mean anything except that this is between B flat and G sharp an augmented sixth. That's a special interval. Over here, when we were looking at this shape, the way we spelled it, we considered this a minor seventh. So an augmented sixth and a minor seventh, in terms of the interval, is the same, but the ramifications of how they resolve is completely different. So the A7th goes to a D chord, and you'll notice that this note didn't go anywhere. But if I take this chord and I do what Sor did, I go from here to this, I end up resolving to an A flat chord. This chord goes to an A flat chord. So I'd have to spell this one quite a bit different. I'm not going to go there. I just want to look at now what Sor did. B flat, D, and G. So this is an augmented sixth chord, and it goes to an A chord. So he's going to show you another way that you can harmonize something and do this with a chromatic line. I just want to take in closing to point out how Sor ends this piece and what he is doing in terms of rhythm. In some places, he's having you hold the notes for 2 beats, sometimes 1 beat. And given that the pattern of this piece has been with this little bounce in your step, he is very strategic in where he places that. So if we look to like measure 22, I believe that you have the E chord, And then you've got 4 voices now. And now he makes that one, instead of an 8th note followed by an 8th note rest, it's a full quarter note. And also, you may have noticed in the measure before that, the first beat was held for 2 beats. So we had, instead of, yeah, and he's going to do that melody twice. It's not going anywhere until we get to that. Yeah, and you'll notice he's changed the melody a little bit, less chromatic at this spot, because he's got a new idea that he wants to try out. Let's try it again. So nice, yes? The bass line's still... a little bit different than what he had done earlier. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. We're now with the A minor chord, and he's going to make the first chord a quarter note. Then he's going to give you just a 2-note chord, and then 4 notes. Changes the bass notes. Goes to A minor, and now this time the A and the C by itself, just a 6th, he's going to play and make that a quarter note. And it's going to lean into the E chord. And the B and the D, that's another 6, will lean into the A minor chord. And the one he's leaning into, he makes a rest. So that ends up sounding... And he continues to do that again. And of course, the part that I just played is a part in which we've already talked about for the 4 voices there. So this is a piece that could use even more detailed analysis, and I encourage you to work with your teacher and take a look at this piece and notice how he is giving you not just a great piece to work on, but all the different positions and harmonic changes that occur in the piece, and the musical changes in articulation and the dynamics. But also he's teaching you how you might be able to harmonize a melody in the key of A minor, but you can apply the same principle as he's showing you to something that's moving more chromatically or isn't even in a different key. It teaches you something about this thing called the augmented-sixth chord, which Sor was very comfortable inserting and using. Okay, hope that this video was especially helpful to you, gave you new insight about this piece by Fernando Sor. You have a great week of practice. Enjoy.